A key witness in the Diddy trial has gone missing. This is super concerning because she is crucial for the case against one of the biggest names in music. She was actually going under a pseudonym like 3 other witnesses in the case, but she decided to waive that right and reveal her identity in her testimony. But now she's MIA. The federal prosecutors don't know where she is, her lawyers don't know where she is, and the prosecutors are using her testimony in the opening statement on May 12th. That's not that far away. For now, she's known as Victim 3, and she was subpoenaed, which means that she is required to be there.
All right, here's the fresh scoop on Allie Carter that's got everyone talking. So, it turns out Allie wasn't just casually dropping hints about what Diddy and his crew were up to behind the scenes, she was actually subpoenaed to testify in Diddy's trial as a key witness. But here's the twist, right when the trial began, Allie mysteriously disappeared. Her family and legal team are completely in the dark about her whereabouts, and people are seriously concerned. Adding even more drama, just one day before the trial kicked off, a voice message Allie sent to a close friend surfaced. In it, she reveals some chilling details about the woman who's been shielding Diddy all this time, enabling him to keep getting away with his crimes. That woman is none other than Christina Diddy. You might remember Diddy praising Christina publicly, like in a 2021 Facebook post where he called her his chief of staff at Combs Enterprises, saying she's been his right hand for 8 years and that he doesn't know how he'd function without her. Back then, no one suspected the dark role she played, but now, Christina's name keeps popping up as a defendant in several sexual assault lawsuits alongside Diddy. For months, Christina stayed quiet, eventually releasing a statement claiming all accusations against her are false and damaging to her reputation and family. She insists she's never condoned or helped any wrongdoing and that she sympathizes deeply with sexual assault survivors. Still, given how many times her name has come up in lawsuits, people aren't convinced. Here's what really stands out. Christina has been a crucial part of Diddy's operations, the one who helped keep his crimes under the radar. In Lil Rod's sexual assault lawsuit, he actually compared her to Ghislaine Maxwell, the infamous Epstein associate. Lil Rod shared that when Diddy began making unwanted advances toward him, he confided in Christina, hoping she'd help. Instead, she shrugged it off, saying, "You know Sean will be Sean," trying to minimize the situation as harmless horseplay. But Christina's involvement goes much deeper. She managed every aspect of Diddy's personal life, including hiring and paying sex workers for him. She even made sure his employees carried bags filled with various illicit drugs like GHB, Xanax, and others, to keep the party going. There's more. Phil Pines, Diddy's former senior exec, accused him of battery and causing emotional trauma. Phil witnessed a violent incident where Diddy kicked a woman outside his home, forced her to remove her sweatshirt, and made her go topless. This left Phil shaken, but Christina immediately told him to keep quiet, warning of consequences if he spoke up. Phil also revealed that Christina organized Diddy's notorious King Nights parties, wild, multi-day events filled with drugs, baby oil, mood lighting, and groups of men and women indulging in all kinds of debauchery. Christina coordinated everything from finding venues to picking participants. Last October, a new lawsuit out of San Francisco put Christina back in the headlines, and it's the very lawsuit that apparently forced her to finally respond publicly to the mounting allegations against her. Until then, Christina had kept mostly quiet despite being named in multiple sexual assault lawsuits linked to Sean Diddy Combs. But the details of this San Francisco case are chilling, and they expose the terrifying extent of the abuse and manipulation allegedly orchestrated by Diddy and Christina together. The woman who filed this lawsuit says her nightmare began in 2018 after she was introduced to Diddy through a FaceTime call. The setup was unusual. She met a man outside a bar who bragged about knowing celebrities, and during a call he made to Diddy to flex, she candidly remarked that she believed Diddy was involved in Tupac Shakur's death. The comment didn't go unnoticed. Diddy overheard it and immediately warned her in a threatening tone that she would pay for saying that. A few days later, this same man invited her to his house under the guise of needing help with his cancer medication. Once inside, everything turned sinister. According to the woman's detailed account, Diddy, Christina, and a group of their associates trapped her inside the house and subjected her to horrific acts. At one point, Diddy held a knife up to her face, threatening to give her what's called a Glasgow smile, a brutal, carved wound extending from the corners of the mouth towards the cheeks, a mark historically associated with violent intimidation. The intimidation escalated as Diddy allegedly forced her into sexual acts while he watched and even directed another man in the room to assault her. The assault didn't stop there, for other men linked to Diddy's entourage took turns abusing her. Throughout this ordeal, Christina allegedly stood by silently, observing and waiting patiently for them to finish so she could clean up the mess. As if the horror wasn't enough, after the assaults, Christina reportedly gave the woman a pill of unknown origin and the abuse continued. Miraculously, the woman managed to escape at some point, fleeing from the house in a panic while screaming for help. A neighbor heard her cries and took her in, quickly contacting the police.
So she was able to escape eventually and ran out into the streets yelling and screaming, and a neighbor heard her because this happened in a quiet suburban neighborhood, if you will.
So there's a witness?
Yes, we have a witness. Because as she's running out the house yelling, a neighbor saw her and invited her into the home.
Okay.
And it's the neighbor who then called the police, and the police did come out at that time. They also stated that they heard cars screeching, and the neighbor went outside and saw a black SUV leaving the premises very quickly. And by the time the police arrived, of course, he was no longer there.
Well, was the neighbor able to identify who it was?
The neighbor wasn't, only that they saw the car leaving, and
Okay.
they'd only described the truck. They could not tell who was inside, but she told the neighbor at the time who it was and why they were leaving so abruptly.
But shockingly, the local authorities failed to act on her report. Insiders say this was because Diddy had already paid off officials, using his influence and money to protect himself and keep victims silent. This pattern of intimidation and corruption allegedly explains why it took the courageous lawsuit filed by singer Cassie and other high-profile accusations to finally get the legal system to respond seriously.
Mr. Combs sexualized her with an inanimate object, and then actually directed another gentleman to her while he watched and pleasured himself. So she was able to escape eventually and ran out into the streets yelling and screaming, and a neighbor heard her because this happened in a quiet suburban neighborhood, if you will.
So there's a witness?
Yes, we have a witness. We also have a police report, and that was made in 2018, that she, when she initially filed the police report, she didn't name Diddy out of fear of retaliation, and more importantly, fear that no one would believe her.
Right.
So she then updated that report, and we've been working with law enforcement to have them actually look into that report. Hearing her tell this story, her voice was trembling, she was in tears. I actually had to stop her at one point and tell her, take a second, because I can tell, even having her tell me this story, reliving it, was extremely painful. It was like it happened yesterday. I can tell she's very traumatized by what happened to her.
The story doesn't end there. Earlier this year, a new sexual assault lawsuit was filed by Seven Gomel, an up-and-coming artist who claimed she was supposed to be mentored by Diddy. Instead, she says, her mentorship turned into a nightmare of repeated sexual abuse. According to her complaint, Diddy forcibly compelled her to perform oral sex against her while during their first sexual encounter, despite her explicit refusals. This lawsuit paints a disturbing picture of abuse masked by promises of career advancement. Amid these allegations, the name Ally Carter keeps coming up in the conversations around Diddy's crimes. Ally has been spilling the tea on Diddy's behavior for a while, and the accusations she's made line up with the disturbing details from these lawsuits. The tension rose even higher when it was revealed that Ally was scheduled to testify as a key witness in Diddy's upcoming trial. But just days before she was set to take the stand, Ally vanished without a trace. Before disappearing, Ally took to social media in an emotional live stream, crying and pleading for help. She said she was terrified for her life and the safety of her family after her home was violently broken into by armed men. She even named suspected individuals she believed orchestrated the attack, claiming that her address had been leaked and that hired goons were sent to silence her permanently.
You get pressured, attacked, stalked, and hunted down for your own information. You get abused and re-victimized again by people who wanted to argue a back and forth this week like that fucking mattered. Okay, you had Stu Peters and Timothy Charles Homestead going back and forth, and nobody has even bothered. Not that I give a damn, and not that I understand that you guys are gonna be that selfish, but nobody has bothered to apologize for all the hell that has happened. But you guys were arguing back and forth, and in that meantime, we lost our home. You don't believe me? Here you go. What once was a full house, we were still paying rent on our house. What we were doing this whole time was moving everything because our house is gone. Our house is gone. This is the speaking out. what was our beautiful 3-bedroom acre home on 21225 Standing Rock Avenue, because everybody has the address, because organizations that were attached to Marx, Sawyer, and many other organizations decided to put out the address, my license plate to one of my cars, and many other of my. So here you go. You can have it, right? Because this is what happens when you speak out. This is what happens when you tell all the truth. This is what happens when you decided to stand up for the children, and when you understand that survivors don't just get to do a seminar, and when you understand that survivors don't just get to just be and then show up somewhere and talk and monetize everything that they're saying. When you realize that that's bullshit, then you will understand. Look at the tactics and pay attention. Pay attention. I'm still not asking you for a damn thing but to wake up. I'm not asking you for a damn thing but just to get outside. I don't give a damn about money, numbers on my platforms. You can have all of it. You took everything. The only thing that I give a shit about right now is the fact that there is a baby in the way. There's babies in the way. There are people that I love that I can't get out of the way. What am I supposed to do when the people in the authority that you're supposed to go to, you can't go to them?
Her sudden disappearance has thrown the trial into chaos and raised urgent questions about witness protection and the power Diddy still wields. This missing witness is currently identified only as victim 3 in court documents. She had originally waived her right to testify anonymously, signaling her bravery and commitment to justice. But now, with both Ali and victim 3 nowhere to be found, prosecutors and defense lawyers alike are scrambling, and the trial hangs in a precarious balance.
A key witness in the Diddy trial has gone missing. This is super concerning because she is crucial for the case against one of the biggest names in music. She was actually going under a pseudonym like 3 other witnesses in the case, but she decided to waive that right and reveal her identity in her testimony. But now she's MIA. The federal prosecutors don't know where she is, her lawyers don't know where she is, and the prosecutors are using her testimony in the opening statement on May 12th. That's not that far away. For now, she's known as victim 3, and she was subpoenaed, which means that she is required to be there. This all comes as the trial is finally underway this week. The jury will be selected by the end of the day. That's not that interesting. They're all going to remain anonymous. What is interesting is the list of celebrities who were shown to potential jurors to see if they knew them. Those names included Michael B. Jordan, Mike Myers, and Kanye West, none of whom were actually implicated.
The trial itself began this week, with jury selection underway. Interestingly, potential jurors were asked about their familiarity with several big-name celebrities, including Michael B. Jordan, Mike Myers, and Kanye West, though none are involved in the case. Meanwhile, the federal prosecutors reportedly have in their possession a bombshell voice note Ali sent to a close friend just before she disappeared. In it, Ali reveals even more incriminating details about Christina's role in enabling Diddy's criminal behavior. This recording could finally be the evidence prosecutors need to bring formal criminal charges against Christina, who so far has only faced civil lawsuits. As the story unfolds, social media is exploding with theories and opinions. Some fans believe Ali will eventually show up and testify, while others worry that she's in serious danger. The fear and uncertainty only add to the growing tension around one of the most sensational and disturbing cases in recent music history. So, what do you think? Could Ali's voice note be the key to bringing Christina to justice? And what's really behind Ali's sudden disappearance? The trial continues, and all eyes are watching closely.